I think I didn't do anything wrong, just tried to find what was missing in my marriage. The next thing I knew, a courier handed me divorce papers right at my mother's house, and everyone suddenly saw me as the villain. I never imagined my husband would turn the tables so completely, and so legally. Before we dive deeper into the story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. The coffee maker gurgled to life at 6:15 a.m., same as every morning for the past 8 years. Grant stood at the kitchen counter in his wrinkled pajama pants, scrolling through his phone while waiting for his caffeine fix. He didn't look up when I entered. "Sophie needs new school shoes," I said, pouring myself a cup. "The ones she has are falling apart." Grant mumbled, still focused on his screen, probably checking work emails already. Marketing analysts never really clock out, or so he always reminded me. "Did you hear me?" I pressed, irritation creeping into my voice. "Shoes. Got it." He finally glanced up, but his eyes were already distant, calculating. "How much?" "I don't know yet. Maybe $60, $70. Grant's jaw tightened slightly. "We'll make it work. Just maybe wait until next week. The Henderson account payment should come through by then." I nodded, swallowing my frustration. Always about money. Always about waiting. When was the last time he'd looked at me, really looked at me, without that worried expression creasing his forehead? Sophie bounded into the kitchen, her 6-year-old energy filling the space instantly. "Daddy, can you braid my hair for school?" "Ask Mommy, sweetheart. Daddy's got an early meeting." Grant was already heading upstairs, coffee in hand. I watched him go, feeling that familiar hollow ache in my chest. When had we become strangers sharing a mortgage? Later that morning at the Riverside Counseling Center, I settled into my receptionist chair and powered up the computer. The irony wasn't lost on me, working at a place that helped people fix their relationships while mine crumbled slowly, quietly, day by day. "Morning, Morven." Dr. Patricia Chen smiled as she passed my desk. "We have a new social worker starting today. Elliot Dre. Can you get him set up with his ID badge and office keys?" "Of course." Elliot Dre arrived at 9:30 sharp, tall, with dark hair and an easy smile that reached his eyes. The kind of smile I hadn't seen directed at me in months. He wore a navy button-down that actually fit him properly, unlike Grant's collection of stretched-out polos. "You must be Morven," he said, extending his hand. "I've heard you're the person who keeps this place running." His handshake was firm, confident. "That's me. Welcome to Riverside. Let me show you around." As we walked through the building, Elliot asked thoughtful questions about the center, the community, the clients we served. He listened, actually listened, when I explained the filing system and scheduling software. "You really know this place inside and out," he said as we stopped at his new office. "How long have you been here?" 3 years. Started part-time when Sophie began preschool, went full-time last year when... I trailed off, not wanting to mention Grant's salary cut. "When what?" "When we needed the extra income." I smiled, deflecting. "Anyway, your first client isn't until 2, so you have time to get settled." That evening, Grant was already at his laptop when I got home, Sophie coloring at the kitchen table beside him. "How was your day?" I asked, genuinely trying. "Busy. The Peterson campaign needs a complete overhaul." He didn't look up from his screen. "We got a new social worker at the center today. Seems really nice." "That's good." Still typing. I stood there for a moment, waiting for him to ask more, to engage, to show any interest in my day. Nothing. "I'll start dinner," I said to no one in particular. That night, as Grant snored softly beside me, my phone buzzed with a text from my sister Julia. "How are things? You seemed down when we talked yesterday." I stared at the ceiling, considering my response. Same as always. Grant's married to his work. I feel invisible. "You deserve better than that. You deserve someone who sees how amazing you are." Julia had always been my champion, even when we were kids. 2 years younger, but somehow always more confident, more sure of what she wanted from life. I don't know what to do anymore. Maybe it's time to focus on what makes you happy for once. You can't pour from an empty cup. I set the phone aside, but her words echoed in my mind. When was the last time I'd felt happy? Really, genuinely happy? The next morning brought the same routine. Grant's coffee, Sophie's breakfast, the rush to get everyone out the door. But when I arrived at work, Elliot was already there, chatting with Dr. Chen about his previous position in Denver. Morven, he turned when he saw me, that warm smile lighting up his face. Perfect timing. I was hoping you could help me figure out the client database. We spent the next hour going through case files and scheduling protocols. Elliot asked insightful questions, made thoughtful observations about our processes. More importantly, he thanked me for my help. Genuinely thanked me, like my knowledge and experience mattered. "You're a lifesaver," he said as I prepared to return to my desk. "I don't know what I would have done without you." It was such a simple comment, but it made my chest warm in a way I'd almost forgotten was possible. Over the following weeks, our interactions became the highlight of my workdays. Elliot would stop by my desk to chat about cases, ask for restaurant recommendations, share funny stories from his previous job. He remembered details, that I preferred tea over coffee, that Sophie was learning to ride a bike, that I'd studied psychology before switching to business administration. "You should have been a counselor yourself," he said one afternoon. "You have such insight into people." "Grant always said it wasn't practical. The money isn't reliable." Elliot's expression shifted slightly. "What do you think?" No one had asked me that in years. What did I think? What did I want? I think I would have been good at it. I think so too. That evening, Grant barely looked up when I walked through the door. "Sophie's at my mom's," he said, still focused on his laptop. "Thought I'd get some extra work done." Oh. I'd been looking forward to hearing about Sophie's day, helping with homework, the normal routine that grounded me. Should I pick her up? She's spending the night. Mom's taking her to that new children's museum tomorrow. So, it would just be us. When had that prospect started feeling awkward instead of romantic? I made dinner for 2, set the table, even opened a bottle of wine. Grant ate mechanically, phone beside his plate, occasionally glancing at notifications. "The Henderson campaign is finally coming together," he said between bites. "If we land this, it could mean a decent bonus." "That's great." I tried to inject enthusiasm into my voice. "Maybe we could finally take that vacation we talked about." "Let's see how it goes. Don't want to count chickens before they hatch." Always cautious, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. When had my husband become so afraid of hope? Later that night, as Grant fell asleep beside me, I found myself thinking about Elliot's laugh, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, how he made me feel seen and heard and valued. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Hey, it's Elliot. Got your number from the staff directory. Hope that's okay. Just wanted to thank you again for all your help this week." I stared at the message, my heart beating faster than it should. "Of course. Happy to help. How are you settling in?" "Good. Thanks to you." Denver feels like a lifetime ago already. "What made you move here?" "Fresh start, I guess. Sometimes you need to shake things up to remember who you are." I read his message 3 times before responding. I understand that feeling. Do you? What would your fresh start look like? The question hung there on my screen, loaded with possibility and danger in equal measure. Grant shifted beside me, mumbling something in his sleep. "I don't know. I've forgotten how to dream, I think." Dreams are never really gone. Sometimes they just need the right person to help you remember them. I set the phone aside without responding, but sleep was impossible. Elliot's words played on repeat in my mind, awakening something I'd buried under years of routine and responsibility and quiet disappointment. The next morning, Grant was already gone when I woke up. A note on the kitchen counter. Early client meeting. See you tonight. No, good morning. No, have a good day. Just logistics. I arrived at work to find a coffee and a chocolate croissant waiting at my desk. Thought you might need some fuel for the day, Elliot said, appearing beside me with his own coffee. You seemed tired yesterday. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to. Besides, you've been taking such good care of me since I started. Let me return the favor. Such a small gesture, but it made my eyes water. When was the last time Grant had surprised me with anything? When was the last time he'd noticed I was tired? Thank you, I managed. This is really sweet. Sweet enough to convince you to grab lunch with me today. I still haven't tried that Italian place you mentioned. I hesitated. Lunch was innocent enough, right? Just two colleagues getting to know each other. Sure, that sounds nice. But even as I said it, I knew I was crossing a line. The flutter in my stomach, the way I found myself checking my reflection in my computer screen, the anticipation building throughout the morning. This wasn't just friendly collegiality. This was the beginning of something I should have stopped before it started. But I didn't want to stop it. For the first time in years, I felt alive. Marcello's Italian restaurant buzzed with the lunch crowd, the scent of garlic and basil filling the air. Elliot had chosen a corner table, intimate without being obvious. He'd changed into a fresh shirt since morning, I noticed, and there was something different about his demeanor, more focused, more intentional. This place is perfect, he said, scanning the menu. How did you discover it? Grant and I used to come here for anniversaries, I replied, then immediately regretted mentioning my husband. Before Sophie was born, anyway. Date nights became complicated after that. No babysitters. Grant's mother helps sometimes, but Grant usually says we should save the money. Restaurants are expensive, especially when you're trying to pay down debt. Elliot set down his menu, studying my face. When's the last time you did something just for you, something that made you happy? The question caught me off guard. I don't know. I'm happy. I mean, I have Sophie. And my job. That's not what I asked. His voice was gentle but persistent. What makes Morven happy? Not Morven the mother, or Morven the wife, or Morven the receptionist. Just Morven. I stared at my hands, wrapped around my water glass. I used to paint. Watercolors mostly. Landscapes, flowers. I was pretty good at it. What happened to that? Life, I guess. No time, no space. Grant converted my art room into his home office when Sophie was born. Said we needed the space for practical things. Do you miss it? Every day. The admission hung between us, more intimate than I'd intended. Elliot reached across the table, his fingers brushing mine briefly. You should start again. Find a way. It's not that simple, between work and Sophie and keeping the house running. It's exactly that simple. You just choose to prioritize everyone else first. His words stung because they were true. When had I become so small, so invisible in my own life? Tell me about Denver, I said, changing the subject. What was it like? Elliot leaned back, letting me redirect the conversation. Beautiful city, but lonely. I was married briefly, didn't work out. She wanted someone more conventional, less focused on helping people. Said I cared more about my clients than I did about her. Did you? He considered this. Maybe. But I think I just cared about the wrong person. Some people inspire you to be your best self. Others make you feel like you're never enough. I spent 2 years feeling like I was never enough. His eyes met mine across the table, and the implication was clear. I felt heat rise in my cheeks. I should get back, I said, checking my phone. Dr. Chen has a staff meeting at 2. Of course. Elliot signaled for the check. Thank you for this, for showing me around, for making me feel welcome. It means more than you know. That evening, Grant was already home when I arrived, which was unusual. He stood in the kitchen, stirring something on the stove while Sophie set the table. You're cooking? I asked, genuinely surprised. Thought I'd try that new recipe you bookmarked, chicken masala. He smiled, and for a moment he looked like the man I'd married. How was your day? Good. Busy. I hung up my purse, guilt gnawing at me. This smells amazing. Dinner was pleasant, almost normal. Grant asked Sophie about school, helped her with math homework afterward, even suggested we watch a movie together. I should have been happy, but instead, I found myself comparing his sudden attention to Elliot's consistent warmth. Later that night, after Sophie was in bed, Grant opened a bottle of wine. I've been thinking, he said, settling beside me on the couch, about us. I know I've been distracted lately, with work and everything. I want to do better. Grant, let me finish. He took my hand, his thumb tracing my wedding ring. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, Morven. You and Sophie. Sometimes I get so focused on providing for you both that I forget to actually be present. I'm sorry. The words I'd been longing to hear for months, maybe years. So, why did they feel too late? I appreciate that, I said carefully. It has been hard, feeling like we're just roommates sometimes. We're not roommates. We're partners. We're a team. He leaned closer, kissing my forehead. I love you. I know I don't say it enough, but I do. I love you too. The words were automatic, familiar, but as Grant's arms wrapped around me, I found myself thinking about Elliot's laugh, the way he'd looked at me across the restaurant table, the possibility he represented. My phone buzzed with a text. I ignored it, but Grant glanced over. Work? He asked. Probably. I didn't check. Later, after Grant fell asleep, I quietly retrieved my phone from the nightstand. Had a great time at lunch today. You're fascinating company. My heart raced as I typed back, thank you. I enjoyed it too. Would you like to do it again? Maybe try that coffee shop you mentioned. I stared at the message for a long time. Grant's arm was draped across my waist, his breathing steady and peaceful. He'd tried tonight, really tried, to reconnect with me. Wasn't that what I wanted? But Elliot made me feel things I'd forgotten I could feel. Excitement, anticipation, desire. Sure. Tomorrow? Can't wait. I deleted the message thread and set the phone aside, but sleep was impossible. I was standing at the edge of a cliff, and part of me wanted to jump. The next few weeks fell into a dangerous rhythm. Grant, true to his word, made more effort at home. He cooked dinner twice a week, helped with Sophie's bedtime routine, even suggested we hire a babysitter for a date night. But his attention felt obligatory, like items checked off a relationship maintenance list. Meanwhile, my lunches with Elliot became a regular thing. We explored different restaurants, took walks through Riverside Park, shared stories about our lives and dreams and disappointments. He was easy to talk to, genuinely interested in my thoughts and opinions. More than that, he saw potential in me that I'd forgotten existed. You should take an art class, he suggested one afternoon, as we sat by the park's duck pond. The community college has a watercolor workshop on Saturday mornings. I couldn't. Sophie has soccer on Saturdays. What time? 10 to 11:30. The art class is from 8 to 10. You could do both. I shook my head. Grant would never go for it. He'd say it's a waste of money, or that I should be spending time with the family on weekends. Have you asked him? I don't need to ask. I know what he'd say. Elliot was quiet for a moment, watching the ducks glide across the water. Can I tell you something? In my line of work, I see a lot of people who've lost themselves in their relationships. They make assumptions about what their partner will say or do, but they never actually have the conversation. Sometimes they're right, but sometimes they're wrong. Sometimes their partner surprises them. And sometimes they don't. True. But isn't it worth finding out? That evening, I brought up the art class to Grant. We were cleaning up after dinner, Sophie already absorbed in her tablet in the living room. Watercolor classes? Grant paused in loading the dishwasher. At the community college? Just on Saturday mornings. It's only $60 for the whole session. He was quiet, considering. What about Sophie's soccer? The class ends at 10. Soccer doesn't start until 10:30. So you'd rush from one thing to the other? It's only 20 minutes. I could make it work. Grant closed the dishwasher and turned to face me. Morven, we've talked about this. Every extra expense matters right now. The car needs new tires. Sophie's growing out of everything. And my bonus from Henderson isn't guaranteed. It's $60, Grant. One time. This time. But then it'll be art supplies, maybe another class, maybe a studio membership. These things snowball. I felt the familiar frustration rising. So I should just never do anything for myself? Ever? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we need to be practical. Maybe when things are more stable financially. When will that be? Next year? 5 years from now? When Sophie's in college? Grant's jaw tightened. I'm doing the best I can, Morven. I'm working 60-hour weeks trying to keep us afloat. I'm sorry if that's not enough for you. The conversation ended there, as they always did, Grant retreating into martyrdom, me swallowing my disappointment and resentment. The next day, I told Elliot about the exchange. I'm sorry, he said. That must have been frustrating. It's fine. He's right about the money situation. Is he? Or is he using money as an excuse to keep you small? The question hit like a slap. That's not... Grant isn't trying to control me. He's just practical. Maybe. Or maybe he's threatened by the idea of you growing, changing, becoming more than what you are right now. Why would he be threatened by that? Elliot's eyes met mine, intense and knowing. Because then you might realize you deserve better. That afternoon, Elliot stopped by my desk with a small wrapped package. What's this? I asked, looking around to make sure no one was watching. Just something I saw and thought of you. Open it later. I slipped the package into my purse, my heart pounding. Gift-giving crossed another line, made this more than friendship. I should have given it back, should have told him this was getting inappropriate. Instead, I waited until my lunch break to unwrap it in my car. Inside was a small watercolor set, professional quality, with a pad of textured paper and 3 brushes. A note was tucked inside. For the artist you still are. E. I stared at the paints, tears blurring my vision. When was the last time someone had given me a gift that showed they truly knew me, understood what would make me happy? That evening, I hid the art supplies in my closet behind winter coats Grant never touched. After everyone was asleep, I snuck into the kitchen and painted by the light of my phone's flashlight. Just a simple flower, purple petals against white paper. It was clumsy after years of neglect, but it felt like coming home. I was so absorbed in the painting that I didn't hear Grant's footsteps until he was standing right behind me. "What are you doing?" he asked, voice thick with sleep. I quickly closed the pad, my heart hammering. Couldn't sleep, just doodling. With what? We don't have art supplies. I picked up a cheap set at the drugstore, just something to pass the time. Grant studied my face in the dim light. You've been acting strange lately, distracted. Is everything okay? Everything's fine, just restless, I guess. He nodded slowly, but his expression remained troubled. Come to bed. It's late. I packed up the supplies and followed him upstairs, but I could feel his eyes on me as we walked. For the first time, I wondered if Grant was more observant than I'd given him credit for. The thought should have scared me. Instead, it was almost thrilling. I was playing with fire, and part of me wanted to get burned. 3 weeks later, Elliot and I were having coffee at Brewster's when he casually mentioned his apartment. It's nothing fancy, he said, stirring sugar into his latte, but it has great natural light, perfect for painting. The suggestion hung between us, unspoken but unmistakable. My coffee suddenly tasted bitter. Elliot. I know. He leaned forward, his voice dropping. I know what I'm suggesting, and I know you're married. But Morven, What we have, this connection, it's real. You feel it too, don't you? I did feel it. The pull between us had grown stronger with each lunch, each shared glance, each moment of understanding that Grant had never offered me. But feeling it and acting on it were different things. I can't, I whispered. I have Sophie to think about. And Grant, he's not a bad person, he's just not the right person for you. The words I'd been afraid to think spoken aloud. I stared into my coffee cup, afraid to meet Elliot's eyes. Come over Saturday afternoon, he said quietly. Just to paint. Nothing has to happen that you don't want to happen. Grant will wonder where I am. Tell him you're shopping. Tell him you're at your sister's. Tell him anything. Elliot's hand covered mine across the small table. You deserve to feel alive, Morven. You deserve to remember who you are. That Saturday, I told Grant I was meeting Julia for lunch and shopping. The lie came easily, which should have worried me more than it did. Elliot's apartment was in a converted Victorian house, with hardwood floors and tall windows that filled the space with golden afternoon light. He'd set up a small easel by the largest window, with the watercolor set he'd given me arranged on a nearby table. It's perfect, I breathed, taking in the setup. Paint whatever you want. I'll just read, give you space to create. For the next 2 hours, I lost myself in color and light. I painted the view from his window, a small garden with late-blooming roses, dappled sunlight filtering through oak leaves. It felt like meditation, like prayer, like coming back to myself after years of being lost. It's beautiful, Elliot said, appearing behind me as I added final touches to the rose petals. You're incredibly talented. It's rusty. I'm out of practice. It's honest, real, like you. I turned to face him, suddenly aware of how close we were standing. His eyes were dark, intense, fixed on my face like I was something precious. Morven, he said softly. I should go. Grant will be expecting me soon. But I didn't move. Neither did he. The space between us seemed to crackle with electricity, with possibility, with the weight of a choice I wasn't ready to make. I don't want you to go, he whispered. I don't want to go either. He reached up, his fingers tracing my cheek. Then don't. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, giving me a chance to pull away. When I didn't, when I leaned into him instead, it deepened. Years of loneliness and frustration and feeling invisible poured into that kiss. For the first time in forever, I felt wanted, desired, seen. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. I should go, I said again, but without conviction. You should, he agreed, but his hands were still cupping my face, his thumb brushing across my lips. I stayed another hour. We didn't make love. I wasn't ready for that line to be crossed. But we kissed. We held each other. We talked about dreams and possibilities, and what it meant to feel truly known by another person. When I finally left, my lips were swollen, and my hair was mussed, and I felt more alive than I had in years. Grant was in the garage when I got home, tinkering with his old motorcycle, a hobby he'd neglected for months. How was lunch with Julia? He asked without looking up from the engine. Good, fine. She's doing well. The lies felt thick on my tongue. Did you buy anything? Panic fluttered in my chest. I was supposed to have been shopping. No, nothing caught my eye. Grant glanced up then, taking in my appearance. You look different, relaxed. Just nice to get out for a while. He nodded, returning to his work. Sophie's at Mom's until tomorrow afternoon. Thought we could have dinner out tonight, just the two of us. Guilt crashed over me like a wave. That sounds nice. But as Grant cleaned his hands and we got ready for our date night, all I could think about was Elliot's kiss, the way he'd looked at me like I hung the moon, the feeling of being truly wanted. Dinner was pleasant but strained. Grant tried to engage, asking about my day, sharing stories from work, even reaching across the table to hold my hand. But every gesture felt hollow compared to the intensity I'd experienced with Elliot just hours before. You're quiet tonight, Grant observed over dessert. Just tired, I guess. We don't have to do this, you know. Go out, I mean. If you'd rather just stay home. No, this is nice. I appreciate the effort. But even as I said it, I was comparing him to Elliot. Grant's conversation was surface level, practical. Elliot talked about ideas, dreams, the deeper currents of human experience. Grant held my hand like an obligation. Elliot had touched me like I was precious, irreplaceable. That night, as Grant made love to me with the same methodical approach he brought to everything else, I closed my eyes and thought about Elliot's hands, Elliot's mouth, the way he'd whispered my name like a prayer. The guilt was crushing, but not enough to stop me from texting Elliot the next morning. Thank you for yesterday, for the painting, for everything. Thank you for trusting me with your art, your time, yourself. When can I see you again? Whenever you want. I'm here. Over the next month, our relationship escalated quickly. We met at his apartment twice a week, always when I could create believable alibis. Shopping trips, sister visits, doctor appointments, the lies multiplied, but so did my sense of being truly alive for the first time in years. We still hadn't made love, but we'd grown more intimate in other ways. Long conversations about everything and nothing. Shared meals he cooked while I painted. Stolen kisses that left me breathless and wanting more. At home, Grant seemed to sense something had changed, though he couldn't put his finger on what. He was more attentive, more affectionate, as if trying to compete with a rival he couldn't see. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was finally getting the attention I'd craved from my husband, but only because I was finding it elsewhere. You seem happier lately, he said one evening as we cleaned up after dinner. More like yourself. Do I? I tried to keep my voice neutral. Yeah, it's nice. I was worried about you for a while there. You seemed so distant. The conversation made my skin crawl. Grant's newfound attention felt like too little, too late. Where had this caring husband been when I'd begged for connection, for conversation, for any sign that I mattered to him beyond my ability to manage the household and raise our daughter? Julia noticed the change too when we met for actual lunch the following week. You're glowing, she said, studying my face across the table. What's going on? I debated how much to tell her. Julia had always been my confidant, but this felt too big, too dangerous to share. I've been painting again, I said finally. It feels good to have a creative outlet. That's wonderful. I'm so glad you're finally doing something for yourself. Grant came around to the idea. Not exactly. I'm just finding ways to make it work. Julia's eyebrows rose. Sneaking around to paint? That's ridiculous, Morven. You're a grown woman. It's complicated. It's not complicated. Your husband should support your interests, not force you to hide them. What kind of marriage is that? Her words echoed Elliot's observations, and I found myself nodding. You're right. I don't know how to change things. Maybe you can't change Grant, but you can change how you respond to him. Stop asking for permission to be yourself. That afternoon, emboldened by Julia's support and my own growing resentment, I made a decision that would change everything. I went to Elliot's apartment, but this time I wasn't there just to paint. Are you sure? He asked as I kissed him with desperate intensity, my hands already working at the buttons of his shirt. I'm sure, I whispered against his mouth. I need this. I need you. What happened next felt inevitable, like we'd been moving toward this moment since the day we met. Elliot made love to me with a passion and attention I'd forgotten was possible. He whispered my name, told me I was beautiful, made me feel like the most desirable woman in the world. Afterward, as we lay tangled together in his bed, I felt no regret, only a deep sense of rightness, of finally being where I belonged. I love you, Elliot said quietly, his fingers tracing patterns on my bare shoulder. I love you too. The words were out before I could stop them, but they felt true. What I had with Elliot was everything my marriage wasn't. Passionate, connected, alive. What happens now? I asked. Whatever you want to happen. I'm not going anywhere. I stayed until nearly 6, making love again, before reluctantly getting dressed. Grant would be expecting dinner soon, and Sophie was coming home from her friend's house. When will I see you again? Elliot asked as he walked me to the door. Soon. I'll figure something out. He kissed me goodbye, long and deep. You're amazing, Morven. Don't let anyone make you forget that. I drove home in a daze, my body still humming from his touch, my mind already planning our next encounter. I felt reckless, powerful, more myself than I'd been in years. I also felt like I was living on borrowed time. Secrets this big had a way of revealing themselves, and when they did, the fallout would be devastating. But as I pulled into my driveway and saw Grant's car in the garage, I realized I didn't care anymore. Whatever consequences were coming, they were worth it for the chance to finally feel alive. I just had no idea how thoroughly Grant was about to turn the tables on me.